It is the last race of 2018, and after this, a champion will be crowned. Will it be newcomer Jack Harding, or will Luke be able to retain his 2017 championship status? We'll have to wait and see. The weather is still pouring down here at Donington Park, so we're going to jump straight into it and hand it straight over to Andy.
3, 2, 1. Thanks, Lyndsay. Well, it's Jack Harding, importantly, who inherits the pole position from the reverse grid for this final race of the season. More on that in a moment. James Harris is alongside him. Then Steve Roberts and Johnny Greensmith with Will Stacey, James Blake Baldwin on row 3. Luke Herbert is 7th, with the race 2 winner Aidan Hills in 8th. Well, as I said, a top 8 grid reversal based upon the results from the previous race. We heard Luke Herbert saying to Lyndsay after race 2 that he thought Jack Harding had been classified 10th for the previous race, but because a couple of the drivers involved in that incident were running ahead of Jack at the time, well, they were not classified in the results, so Jack moved into 8th position. It didn't change the score because it was still a drop score, but it did mean that he inherited the pole position for this final race of the season. Now, to make it as simple as we can, for Jack to have any chance of the title, he has to finish inside the top 2 and then hope that Luke Herbert finishes far enough down the order. If Luke is on the podium, he's the champion. It's as simple as that. Let's go racing then for the final time in 2018. It is not a great start for Harding from pole position. Look at that. It's Steve Roberts from the inside of row number 2 who comes through as the race leader down towards Redgate Corner, and Aidan Hills, not content with that one race win for the weekend, wants another. He's through into 2nd position. James Harris will go 3rd, with Jack Harding slotting into 4th, so a disastrous start there for Jack Harding, who needs to finish in the top 2 regardless of what happens to anyone else out there. He has to be in the top 2 to have any hope of taking the title. On board with Johnny Greensmith as he goes down through the crane of curves for the first time. James Harris is back into 2nd. Look at that, ahead of Aidan Hills, with Jack Harding trying to fight back on the inside of Will Stacey and Aidan as they go through the old hairpin. That's not going to work out though. Will Stacey gets the better momentum from the grippier side of the road and goes ahead with the Harding now down to 5th position. This man, Luke Herbert, all of a sudden, well, he might not have been feeling all that good about his prospects going into this race, with Jack starting on pole and he's starting down in 7th position, but all of a sudden things, as often they do in this championship, are changing quickly in the early stages of the race. Up the hill they go. Steve Roberts leads the way. James Harris 2nd, Aidan Hills in 3rd. The conditions slightly better for this 3rd and final race than they were in race 2. There is less standing water. It's still drizzling out there, but it's nowhere near as wet as it has been earlier on in the day, so certainly it's raceable now. There is less standing water around to trip them all up, so it should be okay for good racing in this one. Down the hill they come towards the final chicane. James Harris in 2nd place, looking for his first ever podium in MX-5 SuperCup racing. Aidan Hills tried to go to the outside of him. That opened the door for Will Stacey. They get tangled together through the chicane though. Stacey gets elbowed out over the curbs, and here comes Jack Harding trying to take advantage of that, but he dropped back some way from those two earlier on in the lap, so actually despite that little contretemps in front of him, he's only really able to draw alongside Will Stacey. He does have the grippier side of the road into Redgate Corner though. In front of him though, Aidan Hills is making the inside line work. He goes up the inside of James Harris to take over 2nd place. Will Stacey follows him through, and Jack Harding tries to go up the inside of the pair of them. This is absolutely critical that he gets away with Aidan Hills, because as we said, 2nd place is a bare minimum here from Harding. This I think will put him through into 3rd place as they drop down through the crane of curves, through the left-hander trying to find the grip. They're still 3 abreast, which in these conditions is a remarkable display of driving, but look at that, Will Stacey not giving in. He's around the outside line. There's a bit of contact between the two of them. They're both out wide. Stacey well into the weeds, but Harding is off as well, and so Harris goes through, Greensmith goes through, and so will Luke Herbert. Luke Herbert all of a sudden probably can't believe his luck. He finds himself alongside, no, in front of his big title rival. So Jack Harding, who has to beat Luke Herbert in this race anyway, is now behind him as they go through McLean's for the 2nd time. So an absolutely disastrous start to the race. To add to his troubles, this race has been shortened because of the earlier issues during the day as well. There's the replay. He was up the inside. He was so desperate to get into the corner first, but the inside line is not where the grip is. We keep saying it, and he demonstrated it there for us perfectly, because he ran out wide, clattered into the side of the luckless Will Stacey, and unfortunately it delayed them both, especially Will, who was completely innocent to all of that, but Jack Harding now finds himself back behind his title rival. Yes, because of the earlier delays in the day, this race has been shortened by 5 minutes, so there are only 15 minutes in which to decide this one. And look at this, Luke Herbert is the man actually who looks most likely to start gaining ground here, because in front of him, James Harris and Johnny Greensmith are running side by side, and so Luke gets in the slipstream of Johnny, goes to the outside of Harris, goes in up one position, and could gain another one here. No, opts out of that one, so he settles into line behind Johnny Greensmith. Harding again is on the inside at the Redgate corner. That just isn't where the grip is though, and you can see that he loses out on the exit. It's oh so tempting when everyone's running around the outside edge of the track to try and find the grip in these conditions. It leaves this massive opening on the inside line, and it's so tempting to throw it to the inside because traditionally in the dry, that's where you'd want to be. Whilst you gain on the way into the corner, getting the traction, getting the power down on the exit, all of a sudden becomes very tricky indeed. And like Lyndsay dicing away with 2 yellow cars. In front of him, Will Stevenson, behind him, Gary Townsend. At the head of the field, though, and putting on a sublime show here, is Steve Roberts, winner at Castle Combe earlier on in the season. Steve has been on the podium 4 times in total over the course of the year, but that was his only win to this point. But this is checking out, he's leaving the battling behind, and he's making good his escape. Aidan Hills is second. This is then the fight for third. This is where the championship contenders are. 4th place for Herbert and 6th for Harding at the moment. But this would not be, even if Harding could get himself onto the podium, that's not enough, because to take enough points out of Luke Herbert, he's 6 points behind, remember, and if they finish tied on points, Herbert would win the championship on countback, because Herbert, so far this season, has scored 6 victories to Jack Harding's 3, so regardless of what happens in this one, Harding can't outdo that number of victories. Oh, he's over the curb there as he forces his way past James Harris, puts him on the grass coming out of the corner, and the loss of traction should be enough for Harding to complete the manoeuvre. Yes, he does, so that's better. He's up 1 position now into 5th, but he's still some way down the road from Luke Herbert, the championship leader. But yes, back to my point. For Harding, if Harding finished in 3rd position, he would take 96 points. He would need to outscore Herbert by 7 points, meaning that Luke would have to finish down in 7th position for that to happen, and that would become a dropped score for Luke. The best way of thinking about it is that essentially the worst thing that can happen to Luke here is that this becomes a drop score. He therefore starts to count a 4th place finish from early on in the season. So the worst point score that Luke can take out of this race is 94 points, which is the equivalent of a 4th position. Even if he finished last, he would score 94 points because he would regain those 94 that currently are standing as a drop score. So again, it's all a bit complicated, but it means that for Jack Harding to have any chance of winning the title, he has to be in the top 2, otherwise it's simply not mathematically possible to take the 7 points required out of Luke Herbert. So there is time left. We are only about halfway through this race, not quite there in fact, but the leaders are an awfully long way away. And even if he gets into 2nd place, he'd need the fastest lap. 2nd place on his own is not necessarily enough. So this is really, really tense for Jack Harding, and he will be ruining that 2nd race, because really, had that red flag not flown, there was every chance that he would have continued to gain ground and potentially had a chance to outscore Luke Herbert, or at least minimise the damage that was done. But the red flag came out, the race was stopped, and Jack found himself down in 8th with Luke in 2nd, and that really has done the damage. Good lap that time around though for Harding. He comes through with a really good lap time, actually closes in on Luke Herbert slightly, who's still stuck behind Johnny Greensmith at the moment. So this isn't over for Jack, but he needs to get past these 2 cars as quickly as possible, and then really hope that he gets a safety car or that something happens to one of the leading 2 to give him that opportunity to get into the top 2. Down the hill they go, in towards the old hairpin. The circuit certainly not drying, but it is less wet than it has been throughout the rest of the day. It's always getting into that greasy stage though, which the drivers don't particularly enjoy. They sort of find themselves scrabbling for grip and struggling to get any sort of traction out of the corner and any sort of turning from the front tyres going into the corner. These are lightweight mid-engine sports cars as well, so they can be quite twitchy in the wet. Hence why I think they were finding it very difficult to handle them in the previous race. Here they go into Coppice Corner. It's fitting, though, that regardless of what happens in the championship, these 2, again, have found themselves together on track. It may not be as high up the order as Jack Harding would like it to be, but they seem to be magnetised almost, don't they, this season? Luke Herbert and Jack Harding have just been inseparable, and they're going to run wheel to wheel one more time as they go down towards the chicane. Oh, Jack Harding on the grass there. That was interesting. Luke Herbert certainly not giving him any room there. I didn't think Jack would appreciate that. He thinks about launching it back up the inside of the chicane. He cannot afford any contact, though. A disqualification would end his championship bid straight away. He's quicker through the chicane, but Herbert places the car nicely on the exit. Harding gets the speed off the turn, pulls to the outside. Now, this might actually be the best place to be, because he will, in theory, have the grip here line down towards Redgate. No, pulls back in line because Herbert, I think, had picked up a toe from Johnny Greensmith's car in front. Harding again throws it to the inside line. He's going to go through, but has he got the car stopped in time? Can Herbert get the switch back? No, he can't. So Harding is now back ahead of his big rival, but it's not enough enough. He needs 2 more positions and then the fastest lap to have any chance of taking the championship. And in fact, Harding is trying to fight back on him as they come through the grader curves. Look at the way the cars just dance around there. Harding's car did not want to turn in to the left-hand element of the grader curves then. For Luke Herbert, he's a smart man. He's an experienced racer. He's been in this position before. He will have done the maths before the race, that's for sure. He knows that he can afford to finish directly behind Jack Harding. If he finishes right on his rear bumper, then it doesn't matter where they finish, he will still be the champion, even if they're first and second. Then third place would be all, actually, that Luke Herbert would need if Jack were to win the race. The hill towards Coppice Corner. Jack Harding ideally needs to set his sights now on Johnny Greensmith in front of him, but instead he's having to defend as they go through Coppice again. 2 more positions, that's all it would take. 2 more positions for Jack Harding, and as long as Herbert doesn't follow him through, he could be the champion, but he's running out of time. We're into the second half of this final round of the championship. It again is fitting that it's gone right down to the wire as well. This man, though, doesn't look like he's going to be caught. Steve Roberts out in front, the all-white Rob Boston racing car. This is his second Rob Boston racing car that he's driven all year, because the car in which he won at Castle Combe was then immediately written off in the accident that he had in the second race of the weekend. So Steve Roberts came back a couple of rounds later with a brand new car, brilliantly prepared as ever by the Rob Boston racing crew, and he's back out there potentially on course for a second win of the year. Jack Harding trying to get up the inside of Johnny Greensmith. Oh, he's there, there's a tap between the two of them though. Harding almost loses it, that nearly went horribly wrong. He's lost momentum. Does that allow Herbert back alongside? No, but Luke is trying. He's certainly feeling racy here, trying to join back in the fun. There is another sense of urgency here for Harding, though. He needs to try and get past Greensmith quickly, not only because his chances of getting into the top 2 are getting slimmer and slimmer with every lap, but also we've got 2 cars catching this group now, haven't we? Because we've got the all-blue car of Will Stacey and then the black and red striped car of James Harris. They're getting ever closer and they're arriving with good speed, particularly Will Stacey. And remember, it was Jack Harding with whom Will pounced had contact earlier on down at the old hairpin. Off, unfortunately, I think at Coppice Corner, is that potentially, has gone Daniel Morris. It's either Coppice, no, it's Redgate, isn't it? It's Redgate, the first corner where he's gone off, so the Paul Cheard racing car in the gravel now. Could that be a safety car period? I wonder. If it is, that, as they say, would change everything. Out of Coppice Corner, the arrival of Will Stacey on the scene for the time being is actually playing into the hands of Jack Harding, because it means that Luke Herbert is having to turn his attention from attack to defence. So Harding has this bit of breathing room now. He needs to try and find a way past Greensmith, though. Even if Herbert were to start losing places now, it's still not enough unless Harding's in the top 2. 2 blue cars, though, again getting themselves together. Blue is a popular colour for a car in the MX-5 SuperCup, and these 2 at a distance very similarly liveried cars. Both run out to the same stable as well. Oh, Will Stacey, what happened there? Will Stacey suddenly slowed down as they came across the start-finish line and then sped back up again. I wonder whether he saw yellow flags, maybe, because there were yellow flags out at Redgate, so maybe he, rather than going for the move up the inside there, I think he had to bail out of it, because of course yellow flags mean no overtaking at that corner. So had he made that move on Luke Herbert that he was shaping up, he would have been penalised for it afterwards. Jack Harding, well, time running out, his chances starting to disappear here. He has to get past Johnny Greensmith and then set after Aidan Hills in front. Aidan is getting further and further ahead, and of course Johnny Greensmith has no reason whatsoever to give this place up. He's looking for his 4th podium finish of the year, a season that started very well with that race win at Knock Hill at the second meeting of the season, and then went downhill from there. Herbert now getting himself, in fact, back alongside Jack Harding there briefly, just applying the pressure again, reminding Jack that he's still there, and that just sort of reminding Jack of what the job at hand is. And Jack there runs a bit wide coming out of McLean's. Perhaps that pressure working there from Luke Herbert, because that spins up the rear wheels and loses Jack time. It means he has to defend again into Coppice, which means he's losing even further ground to Greensmith. And they really are running out of time now, getting into the final few minutes of this final race of what has been an enthralling season, arguably the most competitive season ever in the MX-5 SuperCup. We've had multiple different race winners. We've had a championship battle that has gone right down to the wire, and I do sense that had it not been for that red flag in the previous race, and we understand why the red flag came out, it was the only choice to make given the size and the scale of the incident that occurred. But had it not been for that red flag, Harding probably would have scored more points, and maybe what we're seeing here, this head-to-head fight for position on the track, could well have been the head-to-head fight for the championship in the final race that we all sort of thought we were going to get this year. But as it is, Luke Herbert has been able to arrive at this final race with a slender points advantage. But with every point being as hard fought as it is in this championship, 6 points could be all it took for Luke Herbert to take home the title. Down the hill into the old hairpin. There is Steve Roberts though. He is now just a couple of laps away from his second ever victory in the MX-5 SuperCup, the former BMW racing ace, multiple champion in fact in the BRSCC's BMW Compact Cup, before it was run by the BRSCC. He's a very, very successful racing driver. We always knew that he would find his feet in the MX-5 SuperCup. It took a little while to come, but he got there in the end. A potential second win is on the cards here at Donington. Changes further back there. That's Will Stacey has got into 5th position now, ahead of Luke Herbert. This was already looking like it was going to count as a drop score for Luke anyway, so that hasn't actually made any difference. It's not what Luke does in this race that matters, it's what Jack Harding gets up to. And right now, well, quite frankly, Luke Herbert could pull off to the side of the road and still be the champion. Now, is that what he's doing? All of a sudden, James Harris goes through, so Luke Herbert's slowing as they go down the back straight. What was that all about? Luke Herbert handing a place away there, it seemed, to James Harris. Now, is that Luke just bailing out of all of this and saying, do you know what, I don't need to get involved in any of this? Because, of course, if Luke were to have any contact here and get disqualified, that would hand the championship on a silver platter to Jack Harding. Well, Jack may be taking some hope from that, but he still needs second place, and he's only in 4th now, and there's only one more lap to go. He goes up the inside of Greensmith and takes that position away at Redgate. Oh, no, and that was really unfortunate as Greensmith tried to cut back inside. He didn't realise, I don't think, that Will Stacey was there as well, so he goes for a spin, and unfortunately, Johnny Greensmith's hopes of that 4th podium are now eradicated altogether. So Jack Harding is in 3rd position, but 2nd placed with the fastest lap was the minimum that he needed to rack the title up. He is not going to get that. He hasn't got the fastest lap, and he is several seconds down the road, about 8 seconds, we reckon, behind Aidan Hills. So 3rd place without the fastest lap means that I reckon he's going to lose out on this championship by 4 points. 4 points, that is 2 positions on the track over the course of, what, 17, 18, 19 races that we've had this season, and Jack Harding is going to miss out by the equivalent of 2 places on the track, and he will spend, I'm sure, the entire winter looking back at each and every race this year and thinking, if only I'd have finished 3rd in that race instead of 4th, if only I'd have finished 2nd in that one instead of 3rd, it could have all been so different. None of this, though, matters to this man, because Steve Roberts is going to take what I think will be a popular 2nd win of the year. He wins the final round of the championship here at Donington Park, with Aidan Hills coming home in 2nd. 3rd place will be Jack Harding. It is not enough. It is not enough for the title. Will Stacey comes home 4th, James Harris 5th, and Luke Herbert comes out to the final chicane a long way back, but he is the champion. He has won the 2018 Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, his 2nd year in succession, and he does it by just 4 championship points. Incredible. This really is a championship that continues to outdo itself. It's a shame the weather had a part to play in this final weekend of the year, but it has been a magnificent season of racing between those two and indeed the rest of the field. So it's Roberts from Hills from Harding, your podium finishers. Will Stacey 4th with James Harris 5th and Luke Herbert 6th, but the champion nonetheless. Johnny Greensmith was 7th, ahead of Will Stevenson, Alec Livesley and Christian White, with Gary Townsend, Bradley Kent, Kevin Clark, Nick Rutter and the rest filing in behind. There were quite a few non-starters, several of those involved in the incident in the previous race, but we have a champion, and for the 2nd year in a row, it is Luke Herbert who wraps up the title here at Donington Park. There is confirmation. 4 points was all that was in it, with Aidan Hills 3rd. James Blake Baldwin did take 4th in the end ahead of Johnny Greensmith, while Steve Roberts moves into 6th position with that win in the final race of the year.
Luke, you said at the start of the year you were going to come back and prove us all wrong that you weren't a one-trick pony and you were going to come and win this season to hold your title.
It's been a tough year. All credits to Jack. He's drove excellent. It was either me or him. I just got lucky in qualifying this weekend. If it wasn't for that qualifying session, I think it would be Jack here, because in the dry, he had the outright pace. So over the moon. Thank you to my family, everyone here, my girlfriend, my sponsors, SRC Recycling, Chichester Water Sports, McEwan Wealth Management, ACC Tyres and ANS Tooling. We're here and we're champions because of them. So absolutely over the moon. Yeah, absolutely brilliant year. Brilliant year.
I don't think you're going to have that smile wiped off your face for a long time, but I quickly want to ask you, what was going on in that race? You looked like right at the last minute, you looked like you were having engine troubles?
No, it's all tactical. So for Jack to win the championship, he had to come first and get fastest lap. He got a bad start, unfortunately for him. and then I just did the best I could to hold him up, so there's no chance of him winning. And once I realised that there was a bit of time left and I could just take it easy and let the rest battle, so yeah, it was a tough race, but it's just unfortunate for Jack that he got a bad start, or else it could be a complete different situation.